"The man who dies rich dies disgraced" is a famous quote that was written by Andrew Carnegie before he died in 1919. And that is the reason why the Carnegie family isn't featured on the current Forbes list of America's richest families. Money and power were handed down from generation to generation, but that wasn't going to happen with the Carnegies. Unlike many famous figures to whom generational wealth has been passed down, Andrew Carnegie's life had begun in the heart of a weaver's cottage, a snug space shared with another weaver's family. His early life was marked by several years of hard work and toiling in the small town of Dunfermline, Scotland. This makes us wonder, how did he accumulate such vast wealth without the privilege of a silver spoon? Was it luck or sheer hard work? And what became of his wealth after his passing? Andrew Carnegie, born to Margaret Morrison Carnegie and William Carnegie in 1835, found his early world centered around a singular room that served as their living, dining, and sleeping quarters. In 1836, a significant change unfolded as the family relocated to a larger residence on Edgar Street, driven by the demand for the damask woven by Andrew's father. This shift marked the beginning of Carnegie's formative years. In honor of his paternal grandfather, Andrew carried the Carnegie name, a moniker that would soon extend far beyond the weaving looms. Despite the rhythmic clatter of looms shaping his early years, a pivotal moment occurred in 1848 when the family decided to immigrate to the United States in pursuit of better opportunities. Following their immigration, Andrew emerged as a notable philanthropist, leaving a lasting impact on society through his charitable donations. Institutions across the United States bear his name, and his wealth and fame have become widely recognized. Andrew's foundational education at the Free School in Dunfermline, courtesy of philanthropist Adam Rowland of Gask, laid the groundwork. However, it was the influence of Carnegie's maternal uncle, the esteemed Scottish political figure George Lauder Sr., that enriched his early education. Facing tough times, the Carnegies borrowed money from George Lauder Sr. in pursuit of a fresh start. This led them to Allegheny, Pennsylvania in 1848, marking Andrew's second journey beyond Dunfermline. Arriving in September 1848, the family encountered the challenges of a new land, and Andrew began working at the Anchor cotton mills alongside his father. At the age of 12, Andrew found himself as a bobbin boy in a Pittsburgh cotton factory, working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, for a modest weekly wage of $1.20. This meager sum, however, laid the foundation for Carnegie's transformative journey that transcended continents. By 1849, at the age of 14, Carnegie secured a position as a telegraph messenger boy in the Pittsburgh office of the Ohio Telegraph Company, earning $2.50 per week. This opportunity, facilitated by his uncle's recommendation, showcased Carnegie's strong work ethic and meticulous attention to detail, foreshadowing his ascent in the city's business landscape. Carnegie's education and love for reading received a significant boost when Colonel James Anderson generously opened his personal library, containing 400 volumes, to working boys every Saturday night. Grateful for this access, Carnegie became a regular borrower, and his intellectual and cultural development flourished. This experience instilled in him a commitment to give back, expressing a resolve that if wealth ever came his way, he would ensure that other underprivileged boys had similar opportunities. Carnegie's capacity, diligence, perseverance, and quick thinking led to his promotion from messenger boy to telegraph operator within a year, opening doors to further opportunities in his journey of economic and personal development. Starting in 1853, when Carnegie was approximately 18 years old, he secured employment with Thomas A. Scott of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Initially serving as a secretary, telegraph operator, Carnegie received a weekly salary of $4, equivalent to $141 adjusted for 2023 inflation. Opting for this position over his previous role with the telegraph company, Carnegie perceived greater opportunities for career growth and valuable experience in the railroad industry. At the age of 24, Thomas A. Scott, recognizing Carnegie's capabilities, offered him the position of superintendent for the Western Division of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Carnegie officially assumed this role on December 1, 1859. He made a smart move by hiring his 16-year-old brother, Tom, to serve as his personal secretary and telegraph operator. Additionally, Carnegie brought his cousin, Maria Hogan, on board, making her the first female telegraph operator in the country. Carnegie's annual salary as superintendent amounted to $1,500, equivalent to $49,000 by 2023 inflation. His tenure with the Pennsylvania Railroad proved to be crucial for his future success. The railroad industry was a cornerstone of early American big business, and the Pennsylvania Railroad stood out as one of the largest among them. During these years, Carnegie gained invaluable insights into management and cost control, particularly under the mentorship of Thomas A. Scott. Thomas A. Scott played a pivotal role in guiding Andrew Carnegie in his initial foray into investments. Some of these investments were entwined with the questionable practices of Scott and the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad, John Edgar Thomas, involving activities such as insider trading in companies associated with the railroad or payoffs from contracting parties in exchange for favors. In 1855, Scott facilitated Carnegie's investment of $500 in the Adams Express Company, a firm that had a contractual relationship with the Pennsylvania Railroad for messenger services. The funds were acquired through Carnegie's mother, placing a $600 mortgage on the family's $700 home. This investment opportunity arose due to Carnegie's close association with Scott. Additionally, Carnegie received shares in Theodore Tuttle Woodruff's sleeping car company as a reward for holding shares that Woodruff had given to Scott and Thomas as part of a payoff scheme. Carnegie wisely reinvested his returns from these investments in various railroad-related industries, including iron, bridges, and rails. This strategic approach allowed him to gradually accumulate capital, laying the foundation for his subsequent success. Throughout his later career, Carnegie continued to leverage his strong connections to Thompson and Scott. He established businesses supplying rails and bridges to the railroad, offering both men stakes in his enterprises. Andrew's early experiences in Pittsburgh were what laid the foundation for his later success. He began working for the Pennsylvania Railroad, where he learned about the transportation and business sectors. Over time, he leveraged these experiences to become a prominent figure in the steel industry, ultimately founding Carnegie Steel, one of the leading steel producers in the late 19th century. They settled in Pittsburgh, a burgeoning industrial city. The move to Pittsburgh was driven by the city's growing industrialization and opportunities. Initially, the Carnegie family faced financial challenges, and young Andrew had to work in various jobs to support his family. But, despite the challenges, the industrial landscape of Pittsburgh provided Andrew with exposure to the burgeoning steel and railroad industries. Andrew invested in railroads and worked as a bonds salesman. His entry into the steel industry began in the late 19th century, and by the 1880s he had established Carnegie Steel, which became one of the largest and most successful steel producers of its time. But in 1901 he sold the company to J.P. Morgan for $480 million, equivalent to nearly $13 billion today. That same year, J.P. Morgan founded U.S. Steel and became the world's first company with a market capitalization exceeding $1 billion. After the sale of Carnegie Steel, Andrew dedicated himself to philanthropy. Notable contributions include the establishment of over 2,500 libraries worldwide, the Carnegie Institute of Technology, now Carnegie Mellon University, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York. Andrew had two siblings, Thomas Carnegie and Jane Carnegie. In the early 1880s, Thomas purchased Cumberland Island off the coast of Georgia. This island served as an estate for the family with large mansions and connections to other prominent families like the Rockefellers, while Jane lived a relatively private life with little or no information about her endeavors. In 1887, Andrew met and married Louise Whitfield Carnegie, who was also a philanthropist in her own right, continuing charitable work even after Andrew Carnegie's death. In his later years, Andrew Carnegie shifted his focus from the astute business practices that had led to his considerable wealth to a philanthropic endeavor. From 1901, public attention turned away from his shrewd business acumen to his dedicated efforts in utilizing his fortune for philanthropic projects. Carnegie, who had previously shared his views on social matters and the responsibilities of immense wealth in works like Triumphant Democracy in 1886 and Gospel of Wealth in 1889, redirected his life toward providing capital for initiatives related to public interest, social welfare, and educational progress. Wholeheartedly dedicated to philanthropy, Carnegie meticulously preserved letters of gratitude from those he assisted, storing them in a labeled desk drawer titled Gratitude and Sweet Words. One noteworthy contribution was his annual allocation of $25,000 to the spelling reform movement. Through his organization, the Simplified Spelling Board, Carnegie played a pivotal role in producing the handbooks of simplified spelling, entirely composed in reformed spelling. Andrew Carnegie passed away on August 11, 1919, succumbing to bronchial pneumonia at his summer residence, Shadow Brook, in Lenox, Massachusetts, at the age of 83. In the aftermath of her husband's death, Louise assumed the role of president at the Carnegie Corporation of New York, a philanthropic foundation established by Andrew Carnegie in 1911. This foundation supported diverse educational, cultural, and scientific initiatives. Louise was also actively engaged in the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, another institution founded by Andrew Carnegie, aiming to foster international cooperation and understanding. Unlike some families featured on the Forbes Richest Families in America list, Carnegie did not bequeath a share in the company he played a pivotal role in building to his descendants. Currently, U.S. Steel is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Interestingly, Andrew's brother, Thomas, chose a more conventional approach to inheritance. His will, executed at the age of 42, distributed his multi-million-dollar industrial fortune among his wife and 9 children, each receiving a trust fund of approximately $10 million. However, over time the wealth dissipated and the remnants of the Gilded Age nearly vanished by the second generation. Cumberland Island off the coast of Georgia, a significant part of Thomas's estate, was sold in the 1970s, with many family members donating their land to the National Park Service due to financial constraints hindering maintenance. Lucy Foster Flight, a 5th-generation descendant, lamented, "We had the island and that's it. The money wasn't there. We've all pursued our individual paths, making our own fortunes or facing financial challenges." Unfortunately, Carnegie's once substantial fortune, comparable to the wealth of the Rockefeller oil tycoons and the Morgan banking family, has significantly diminished. The 13 4th-generation descendants of Andrew Carnegie now possess a self-made wealth more akin to that of white-collar professionals. The extensive 5th and growing 6th generations include the children and grandchildren of these descendants. Although a few dozen family members still reside there, their plots will eventually be transferred to the government upon their passing. Despite the gradual transition, the island remains a gathering place for family reunions and holidays like Thanksgiving. Foster Flight emphasized the misconception surrounding their wealth, stating, "There is this misnomer that we're this really rich family and feel that we're owed the right to be on the island. It's really hard because that's our home." Linda Thorell Hills, a great-granddaughter of Andrew Carnegie, mentioned that her family has chosen to live conservatively and privately. She highlighted the ease with which they can blend in since they're all descended from his only daughter, and none carry the Carnegie last name. Nonetheless, she expressed that they find strength in his enduring legacy. Long before Andrew Carnegie's death, the family had already agreed to a deal. They signed one of America's earliest prenuptial agreements, outlining the terms of the inheritance. This arrangement paved the way for Andrew to establish 200 libraries, the Carnegie Institute of Technology, now Carnegie Mellon University, and the Carnegie Corporation of New York. It's important to know that the Carnegie family's story is marked by a commitment to philanthropy, and much of their wealth was directed towards endeavors aimed at benefiting society rather than being solely retained for personal accumulation. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't hesitate to tap the next button to watch other fascinating content. Leave a comment on who you'd like us to cover next time.